Hey guys, welcome, and today we're going to be going over the Spring Earring DIY Polymer Clay Kit. So here are the items inside of your kit. You will also want to grab a plate with a flat surface, either ceramic, glass, and then also a bowl with a little bit of water, and then a knife or butter knife, preferably one that doesn't have any serrated edges. This is just to cut your clay, but you can also use the plastic X-Acto knife included in your kit. Don't forget an oven-safe cookie sheet as well. Feel free at any time to pause this video. I'm going to go through step by step on how I create 6 different earring designs. You're welcome to copy them exact or kind of add your own twist. The main thing is that you have fun with it. Let's go ahead and get started. So the reason that we're using a plate instead of maybe a wood table or parchment paper is because you really want your clay to be secured to your surface. This allows a nice clean cut when we go to use our polymer clay cutters. So what I've done is I'm going to go ahead and grab some beige clay. I'm going to take my roller and I'm just going to roll my clay onto my plate. Now you want the thickness to be about the depth of a US quarter. I think that's good. It's nice and smooth. All right. Next, I'm going to go in and just cut off a little bit of each color of the clay. What I want to do is I want to roll them into 2 of the same size balls. This just helps me proportion how much clay I'm using for each earring design so that they end up looking as matching as possible. Okay, so there we go. I have my little balls. This is going to be for one earring. This is going to be for another. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the color balls and I'm just going to roll it until it looks like a piece of spaghetti. You want to do this for each color. This is what we're going to use to put on our earrings. You should have enough with just one of each color balls. So there we have it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to be doing a heart design, and I just want to see, I'm just going to do a light little imprint. I'm not going to push it all the way in there. I just want to see where that design is going to be. So I think I'm going to do mine like this. Keep in mind too, when you're laying your clay, is eventually you're going to have to drill a hole either on the side or on the top. So just be mindful of that. All right, we'll do 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and I'm just going to help secure it. Just rolling it lightly, just lightly. All right, now we're going to go in and we're going to cut our clay. So a technique with cutting clay is sometimes people just want to push down and come back up. You really do need, there is a little bit of a technique to it. So I'm going to line it back up. I'm going to push down. I usually stand up when I do this. I'm going to push down and I'm just going to do the slightest little shimmy. Nothing crazy, but enough to help push the clay away from the sides, right? Lift up. And then this is what we call a skeleton pull. And look at that beautiful little earring right there. So what I can do here is I am going to use this clay so I can actually peel it off. And I have a little bit extra to work with that I can use for another earring. I can either mix this back up. If I'm really concerned about the little areas of color, I can just pinch that off if I really don't want any other colors in my beige. So that's what I'll do. I'll just pinch off that little bit aside. And now we have perfect color. All right, guys, as you can see here, we have created a very adorable heart. This is where you would want to go in and make a second one to match it. You can either make it exact or you can have it to where the pieces angle so that they match, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to go ahead and skip to the next video. Feel free to pause this if you need to recreate the second earring. And I'm going to show you real quickly on how to move your pieces over to your cookie sheet. So you can either take your knife or you can take your plastic razor blade, and what you can do is just kind of come up underneath it and you just want to lightly pick it up, and this is where you're going to go ahead and transfer it over to your separate cookie pan, that way so we can prep it for the oven. All right, guys, the next design is going to be using the mushroom cutter. So I'm going to use the cream as my base, and there's a fun little technique with this. So same thing as before, you're going to want to make sure that your clay is secured to your surface, either a ceramic tile, a plate. Just make sure it's not porous, that way so it really secures down. I'm going to go ahead and roll out my clay so that it's about the thickness of a US quarter. You can even make this one slightly thinner because we're going to be adding a top to it. Now, same thing as before, I'm going to take my cutter and I'm just going to make the tiniest little dent so that I kind of have a guide of where these are going to be going. Now, this is where I'm going to decide what I want my tops of my mushrooms to be. So I think I'm going to do green. We'll do a little sage green. Condition it a bit. All right. Now, here's what I'm going to do. You can either take your razor or you can take your knife, and I just want you to make a clean cut. Just so you have a straight guide, if that makes any sense. I want to show you why we're doing this. Right? Okay. So put that there. I'm going to pick up this little bit. And this is where I'm just going to put it on top like that. I'm going to lightly secure it. Not a lot of pressure here, just a little, just to make sure that they are making contact. Okay. And then if you wanted to, if you really wanted to get fun and creative with it, you could create tiny little balls to put on top. Which, you know what, let's just do that. Why not? Right? Okay. I'm just going to press those down so that they're nice and secure. And now we're going to go back up. We're going to line up our guide. So I'm going to base it off of the bottom here. Okay, I'm going to push down, do a slight little shimmy, nothing crazy. Pull it up. So cute. Oh, you can see here I actually should have lined it up a little higher. We'll do that on this one. Line it up. Push down. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. There we go. And if I really wanted to go back in there and I'm concerned about the top part not lining up, I can just cut this. It's a lot easier when you use your guides as opposed to having to go in and correct it. So just be mindful of that. Don't make the mistake I just made. But as you can see here, we're fixing it and we're fine. All right, so we're gonna do our skeleton peel. Boop, boop, boop. Perfect. And then you know what? I'm gonna add a little bit of texture. I'm just gonna fatten these guys up. All right, so there we have it. We have our cute little mushroom guys. These could either be a great stud or you could put them on with a finding up there. So that is that earring. Let's go ahead and move to the next. Make sure that you go ahead and put this on your baking sheet, and let's move over to the next earring. All right. So the next earring, I'm actually going to make a pair of studs. So I'm going to use some of these scraps because I really like this cream color. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up, condition it a little bit, and I'm going to roll it out so that it's secured to my surface, about the thickness of a US quarter. You guys are going to remember this by the end of this video. You're going to be like, yep, always make sure your thickness is as much as a US quarter. Perfect. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two little guides for myself. And then I am going to make, I think I'm going to do little daisies. I don't know what color, but I'm thinking, yeah, let's do that. So for this, I'm going to create a few little bowls. These are going to be my petals. So there's a few different ways of techniques you can do this. So you can either, here's just an option, take the little ball, kind of roll it on one side so it almost looks like a petal. And then what you're going to do is just going to poke it so that it truly does look like a little petal. And then we're going to create just a little flower. So this is a little bit more time consuming of a design, but the end result is just so pretty. You know what? We'll make it one step easier for us. We're just going to put it on there as is, and then we can go in and add the dent. Make it a little easier. Work smarter, not harder, right? There we go. We're getting a nice little shape here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to create the centerpiece. I'm going to use a different color. You don't have to, but I want a little pop. I'll do a little less than that even. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to add a little bit of detail. Some little. It's all in the details. All right, so there we go. We have one. Line up with our guides. Push down. Lay a little spin. So we have one stud, and you could even do a tiered effect with this. But what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and mimic it on the other design. You can even do a different color flower if you want, or you can have it inverted. But that is how you make the flower studs. Feel free to pause this video and finish up your project. Otherwise, you're welcome to move to the next earring. All right, guys, now we're going to be working on the flower earrings. So this is where that cup of water that I had mentioned in the beginning of the video, this is where this is going to come in handy. So as you can see, we still have plenty of clay, so you can probably make a couple different ones of these. I think I'm going to do a design probably like this, but I've seen where it goes 1, 2, 3, and it's so pretty. So let's go ahead and start with, you know what, let's make some watermelon looking earrings. So I'm going to take some of this muted pink and put this to the side. And I'm going to go ahead and condition my clay. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my cutter and I'm going to move this over here. You're actually going to dip it in water. And I know that probably sounds crazy, but this helps make sure that that centerpiece doesn't get stuck inside your clay. So I'm going to push down, do a nice little wiggle, pull up. Oh, and it still got stuck, but believe me, the water definitely helps. Okay, so there's one. Dip in water. Maybe my clay might be a little too thick. I'm thinking that's what it is. Okay. Dip it in water. Now, one of the things to note is Primo clay, which is the clay we're using today in these kits, is an oil-based clay. So that means that it won't dissolve with water. However, if you are using other clays such as Fimo, there might be another brand, those are water-based clays. And what that means is if you try cutting the clay with water, you'll actually start to notice that your clay will get really sticky. That's because it's starting to break down and soften inside of the water. So just be mindful when you are using the cutting tactic with water, that you're using an oil-based clay like Primo or Souffle. And then always stay away from Sculpey 3 at all costs. Highly, highly avoid Sculpey 3 just because those pieces will always end up crumbling. So I went ahead and did my little pink part. Now let's do some green. Definitely feeling some watermelon vibes here. If I was smart, I would probably move these pieces so that I don't accidentally hit them, but we're feeling rebellious today, so we're gonna live on the edge a little. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take the larger flower, I'm going to dip it in water to help make sure it doesn't cut, or stick, I should say. Push down, do a little shimmy, lift up. All right, there we go, we got a perfect cut that time. Remove that. I'm just gonna dab up the excess. I'll pull that one up. And you can use these little centers for even little studs if you wanted, but that's how I'm gonna have it laid out like this. I'm gonna have to recondition again. You can also cut your clay with cornstarch, believe it or not. You just want to make sure that you're careful with how much cornstarch you're putting in your clay because it will dry it out and make it kind of crumbly. So if you do decide to use cornstarch, let's say you have some inside your kitchen right now, you would just put a little pile of cornstarch, take your cutter, dip it in the cornstarch, and then cut right into your clay. So I sometimes do that as well. It is conditioned. I'm gonna roll it out. Dip it in water. Push in. Do a slight little wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle. Lift up. Skeleton peel. Pick it up, and then you can put that over on your cooking sheet. Please do not cook it just yet in the oven because we still need to put our holes inside of it. So that is the design for these pairs of earrings. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make another set, whatever color you want, because those will end up, you can either turn them into studs or you can put them on hoops. I really think they're so pretty on hoops, just little flowers. Another tactic in case you're interested, which I'll make a second pair, but this is probably going to be the design that I make for my, oops, it's a little sticky, but like this. How cute. You guys see how cute that is? So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. We've decided that this is the style we're going to go with on these. Okay. So that's for that pair, and then I'm going to do this one more time so they have that tiered design. So feel free to make your second pair, and then we're going to go ahead and go to the next earring design. All right, it's time for our last earring design. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of each color. So I'm going to start with the gray. I'm going to roll it until I create kind of a thicker piece of spaghetti. Kind of like this consistency I'm showing you here, and I'm going to do this for each one of the colors like I've done. I went ahead and sped up the video. All right, so we have our pieces here. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to cut them in half. Again, you can use your X-Acto knife. I'm just using a kitchen knife because why not? So for this, I am actually going to do them both at the same time. Doesn't matter what order you do it, it's completely up to you. But basically you want them to touch the next pair. We'll put the pink up at the top. Yeah, that's beautiful. Honestly, these are almost cute on their own. A nice little tiered look. You could cut it so that it goes shortest to longest. But me, I am going to make it a little more simple on myself. I'm just going to lightly Smush them down just so that they don't separate. I'm gonna cut these in half. And about there for this one. Nope. I'm gonna take my extras. And then for this, you want to be extremely careful because you need them to fuse together. So try not to separate them. Okay, that one's a good one. This one's going to be so cute. I think it would be great on a hoop or a fish hook, but these are good to go ahead and place on your cookie sheet. Before you throw it in the oven, we're going to go over placing your holes, and I'll go over instructions for baking. So 1 second. All right, guys, welcome back. So for video purposes, we are going to hypothetically pretend that my pieces are on a cookie pan right now. And then I'm going to show you where I'm going to place holes. So something to be mindful is you definitely want to put your holes, if you do not have a Dremel drill to be able to drill post-bake, you need to make sure you're putting holes in with a toothpick before you bake them. Something to also keep in mind is sometimes people want to put a hole right farther down, and here's the thing you have to be mindful of. Be mindful of how big your jump rings are. And I'm just going to kind of zoom in here to show you. So paying attention to how big my jump ring is, it's going to need time to hang as well. So I would probably put a little hole right here up at the top. Don't get it too close because you don't want to just make it too thin up at the top, but I would not put it down too far because it still has to hang on a fish hook. So we are going to go ahead and put our holes where they need to be. So for this guy right here, I'm actually not going to put any holes in him because he's going to go on some hoops. These little guys, the little mushrooms, I am going to put them on fish hooks with some hardware. So I'm just going to poke a hole, kind of spin it around. I really do want that hole in there. Perfect. We'll do another one. The reason why I'm doing kind of a spinny motion is because it's a tapered toothpick, so if I go down it won't actually fit all the way. So just spinning it out a little just to make sure that I get the back of that. All right, so I've done that. For these guys, we're gonna go ahead and put a hole up here in the little pink part. Perfect. For these guys up here, I am going to put it, I'll do it like this. So I can either put a post on this guy, on the back of him, and then just put a O-ring right here, or I can put an extra one and have it on a fish hook. I think for me, I'm going to put it on a post, so I'm just going to put a hole there and a hole there. And again, being mindful of the space because this has to be in between. It still needs a little bit of room to swing because we don't want stiff earrings. We want earrings that have a little sway to them. All right, and then for the hearts, you can either do it right down the center or you can even do it on the side and kind of have a hanging heart. I'm going to do mine right down the middle. Why not? All right, and then my studs are going to be obviously post. So all of my holes have now been placed. I'm going to place it in the oven. You want to cook these for 30 minutes at 275 degrees Fahrenheit. Your kitchen oven will work fine. A convection oven will work fine as well. But you'll want to cook them for 30 minutes for 275 degrees. For thicker pieces, it cannot hurt. It won't hurt it to cook an extra 15 minutes. So because this guy's a little extra thick, I might actually cook him for 45 minutes. It's not going to damage any of the other clay pieces if I cook all of them for 45 minutes. The main thing is you don't want to undercook your earrings because you need that you need everything to fuse properly. So I'm going to go ahead and place it in the oven. Go ahead and get your oven started, and then we will meet back here and go over the final step, which is gluing on our post to our earrings. All right, see you soon, guys. Hey guys, welcome back, and I have taken my pieces out of the oven. So now we are ready to begin sanding as well as touching up our clay pieces. So you'll notice two things inside of your kit. You'll notice a sanding stick as well as an alcohol prep pad. So the sanding stick is going to be to clean up those edges where there's just a little bit of imperfections. You'll notice especially like on any of the little circle cutters. So basically you're just gonna sand the edges, kind of give it that finishing touch, right? Once you've done that, if you've noticed that some of your pieces have a shininess to the back, this isn't a problem, but if you're like me and you're picky, you can actually wipe off that excess oil from the back with an alcohol prep pad. And this will also clean off your pieces in case you have any fingerprints. If you don't want to use acetone, or if you do continue your clay journey, you can also use nail polish remover, and this will get rid of any bumps or minor imperfections in your clay. So once you have cleaned up all of your pieces, you've sanded the edges, then you can begin with gluing your backs onto your earrings. You do want to make sure that you give the glue full time to dry. I believe in your guys' kits you'll have Gorilla Glue, which is an excellent glue, but please be mindful that when you are using the glue, a little goes a long ways. It really does. Here, I'm actually going to grab it. I'll grab a used one, so keep that one fresh. All right, so it's important to note that a little bit goes a long way. So what I'm gonna do is, rather than taking the glue and putting it right on the clay, I'm actually going to just dip my earring finding into the glue, and then I'll secure it on that way. Make sure it's pushed all the way down, and I'm gonna let that fully dry and cure before I go to wear those. All right, guys, and there you have it. All of the earrings have been assembled and they've been put on earring cards, and they are absolutely precious. So as you can see here, we still had a few more posts left over, and we had tons of clay. I mean, you could make several more earrings with this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and feel free to tag us in your creations at Lunar Love Design Co. We love to see all the things that you guys are creating. Thank you so much for spending some creative time with me. Have a good one, guys.